Hey everybody, Brad Linder here again with you for another daily sketch card. Not gonna miss it. Tried to get on earlier, but due to some Facebook difficulty, I could not. Uh, gonna share this over with the page and the channel so that we can watch this and hang out for a bit, coloring this guy and knocking him out. If you don't know who Beta Ray Bill is, he happens to be one of the Thor um, alternate reality characters from the Marvel Universe, and he is very, very unique. If you don't know who this guy is, please check him out. Hey, Tom, glad you made it, man. Um, I'm going to do some very cool, diverse coloring here because I'm going to lay this on a little thick, and I'm going to do it rather quick, so we're going to get this going. But first off, to give him a warm flesh look, if you color this guy, I know his skin tone is orange, and everybody's going to be freaking out about this because it's like, that's the Horseman from Thor, and he's not that color, he's orange. Well, understand that when I do this, I'm doing this as a base coat to give him a human or lively flesh look, rather than him looking too overly cartoony. I mean, even as exaggerated as this character is, um, I want him to look realistic in that vibe. And by doing this with either this color or like this is an E00, which is a primary like rose, it's like a rose color, a rose pink, or maybe even something softer than that. But I like to use this one as a primary, or an E11, which is a little bit darker, more of a tan color. And I like to use this one, maybe even an E13 or E15 if you want to go that dark. But in this case, it won't show up with those bright oranges as a base coat. So anyway, if you're trying to get something more lively looking and flesh looking or lively looking, go with a real pale, soft flesh tone like this. And the reason you do it is it will make a warm skin tone type of feel to it, and it make it look organic rather than just wiping it out. Okay, so that is the reason why I am doing that. And the same thing will happen with an E11 if you go that way too, but it's a little dark for this particular character because he has kind of a bronze, goldy, orange kind of thing going on. But I really love this character because of the skin tone being a bright neon orange at first, and then going into a base coat kind of effect where it slims down a little more over time with the shading. So his flesh look is just very unique for this character. And I remember reading them as a kid, and it just freaked me out to no end because they had him with this huge, funky version of the hammer, his own version, and they put him with Guardians of the Galaxy for a little while. They put him with the Infinity Gauntlet crew for a little while, and then he had his own series in the 90s when the Marvel card fad took off. He got his own thing going on in the 90s. Oop, I ran over a little bit right there. I'll have to touch that up. But that was a really cool series as well. They were trying to revive the Thor franchise when Thor had his powers taken away from him from Odin, and he was replaced by Eric Masterson for Thunderstrike. And they needed something to compensate and expanded on the fame of that because it was a cool new hip version. And they just brought everything possible out of the gauntlet that was the Thor universe at the time. I mean, they just pumped it out, boom, boom, boom. There were books after books after books. It was the Mighty Thor. It was the Thor standalone title. It was there was Thor of Asgard, I believe it was. There was just like 20 of these things, and then there was Thunderstrike and all that, and it just went on and on and on. And Beta Ray Bill was in that fold. And I really, really dig this character because of the fact that he was so prominent in the Marvel Universe for being this alternative alien version. I mean, he was like Thor meets Lobo from DC Comics, you know. It was just wild. It was a wild time. Of course, comics were in their boom then before the bubble burst, and that was one of those rough times where comics were selling 20 different copies, alternative covers and all that mess. And it got so big because everybody was, everybody and their dog was publishing a comic book at the time. And then they crushed out small press for a little while, and all the underground comics came back and then kicked their butts after the bubble burst in the mid 90s. And then all of a sudden the boom came with Breaking Batman, and with Nightfall, and then you had the problems with the death of Superman coming out and hit CNN News and made a big splash there. That made a hype, which sold thousands and thousands of comics per issue and just went nuts for a long time. And then the bubble finally collapsed completely to where we just don't have any value in comics now. Not at street value anyway. For collectability. But the digital market's about to do that, change that though, because of the limited print-on-demand versions of coming comic books. We're going to be seeing a lot of changes come out that's going to be to our benefit. So hang on for that one, because that's going to be really cool. Let's see here. I'm trying to get, what did I do with my blue for this thing? Bear with me just a second. Grab the old bag of fun here, because I put my blue down. I don't know what I did with my blues. There they are. Cool. Sorry about that. I had my blues put back in the bag for some reason. But anyway, this character came out like gangbusters during that time, and he got a really big cult following. And I was one of those people. I was addicted to it. And when I saw him appear on the, if you haven't seen it yet, I won't ruin it for you. But there's a scene in Thor Ragnarok where Beta Ray Bill's head is posted up on the side of one of the stadiums as former champion. And I tell you what, that was phenomenal to see that, and it blew me away to potentially get to see him on film. Which I don't know if we will or not. But with Marvel restarting. With Fresh Start, who knows? They're saying now that they want to get back to basics and they're going to do Fresh Start, but we'll see. This could be another gimmick just to save their butts for a little while, because they've lost so much money on the all-new Marvel in the comic book realm. Where the movies have been crushing it, they've been making mistakes with the comic books. Excuse my sniffles today. I've got a bad allergy infection. I got hit in the face with some paper dust today, and it was a bad thing all the way around. I mean, I just got a face full of it, and it was bad news. But anyway, enough about me. When I saw that on the film, I was just in shock and awe all over the idea of it, and I did all this research and stuff to see if he was going to show up, and Marvel says he might, and now, we may actually get that, because they're going to have to do something to expand the universe, because if they don't, they've already put Thor out in space and just pretty much destroyed Asgard. So they're going to have to do something else. They did that right after the Dark World. And, with all that destruction and stuff, it's crazy, man. And then they fleshed it all out in the rest of this movie. So, but like I said, no spoilers, though. I mean, everybody knows that. And I won't go into any more detail than that, but it's just wild stuff to what they're doing, and I hope it picks up, and I hope it takes off and does something really well for them and makes a big comeback, and may even revive the comic book industry a little bit, with the top two being back. That would be very impressive, but I'm not holding my breath. We've been burned by them too many times, so we're gonna have to wait and see. You know what I mean? We're just gonna have to hold out and see. Hey, Jeremy, glad you made it, man. I don't know, man. Hey, Hector, Alan, it's been a while, buddy. I don't know, Jeremy. Jeremy posted, for those that can't see on the YouTube channel, Jeremy posted a comment about the digital marketing stuff taking off and helping with the back issues that other people couldn't afford, to get access to otherwise. That's a cool thing, but that service has already existed. It's existed since the Marvel digital platform has been online, and they put all those back issues online digitally. That database already exists, and it didn't help the market at all. So, you get the chance to read a bunch of that stuff, but then you have the archived trades and, the ultimate trades and all that going on, and or essential trades, excuse me, the essential trades going on to stockpile those books and those stories. And I have many of them, and it's still not saving the market. It's actually boosted the trade market instead of helping the individual issues, which they want for the promotion of the books. So, with digital comics coming out more regularly by Marvel and DC now, we may see the transition that Image Comics made years ago, back in 2009, with digital comics, digital downloads and print on demand. And you either got the book in print or you had the option of getting it digital on demand. And by doing that, Image is way ahead of the curve. Of course, Todd McFarlane has always been a major business force in the comic industry, where a lot of people haven't known him for, other than, just writing Spider-Man and drawing Spider-Man. And that's a big thing. The dude, when he created Spawn, he's been on top of the market, and he's been in so many different industries, like toys and baseball and sports and all the stuff that he invests in his other businesses, because if the comic bubble ever bust again, he didn't want to get burned. And that's exactly the right way to do it. So we've got that all along, and you can go on image.com under pretty much anything that you want. You can Google Spawn Comics, and you'll be able to get that directly from their website and through other outlets. And I'm doing the same thing with my comics here very soon, and I'm offering a really cool service on that as well for everybody else. So that's going to be a cool, fun thing, because Comixology is going to the wayside because of the fact that it can't keep up and has such strict terms and conditions. And now that they're in bed with Diamond, trying to compete, and stifle the market with the digital stuff coming out in comparison to whatever Diamond wants them to do with it, it's getting really weird, man. I see a lot of changes coming, and I think it's going to go for the better in our behalf, because of the fact that they can't stop us from doing what we need to do to get the job done. So keep that in mind very cautiously. I think that's the direction it's going to lean. Now, as far as, I'm going to get my red paint pen here. As far as what we have in current comics, I think we're going to be able to see what's up with everything going on there. So we're just going to have to patiently watch it. Now, moving on to Alan's question, I do see you, bud. I'll get you right next, Jeremy. Man, I'm getting some questions tonight. That's awesome. Alan, yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the comments on the coloring. I really enjoy doing this stuff, and I'm really digging it, man. As for your question, what's the advantage of Copic markers versus tube watercolors? I prefer the Copics because they last longer. They don't fade on the material months later. They last. They really last. And let me tell you, I've been doing this every day for just under a year now, okay? This is day 36, 336 or 337. Yeah, 336. And since I've been doing this and I started, give me just a second here and I'll grab the Venom card that I did the first day. This was done with Copics, man, and it hasn't faded one stinking bit at all. That was done with Copics. Now, I've done stuff with watercolors that don't work. This is Artist Loft, and they hold up really well as a secondary because they have a watercolor effect and they get a darker saturation. So I like them for things like this, just to break it up a little bit, because they have more of a pop. And what I mean by pop is they have more of a vibrancy when they set and dry, because this is Copics and Artist Loft. So just so you have an idea of what's going on there, they are very cool colors. This yellow is Artist Loft. It's a watercolor type of color. Some base red there is the bright red base is Artist Loft, and the darker is a maroon from Copic. These are two Copic colors, just to show that. So they're really vibrant in comparison. I like to use multi-mediums multiples because of the fact that it gives me that vibrancy that I need over the across the board. And I hope that answers your question, man. That's why I use them. I don't like tube watercolors because they tend to fade over time. The ink is not as good a quality as what comes out of Copic and out of Artist Loft. And I mean, even Crayola's ink is better than most tube watercolors. And I mean, I know that's sad to say, but I'm not being biased. I am literally telling you that I've tested everything out there, and I've got Azteca. I've got a set from Azteca that I just got on the reference of Rusty Gilligan and Brian Salinas. They gave me those references to check them out. And, you know, the guys are like, man, you got to check out these markers. They're freaking awesome. So I got a set of these sitting over in the other office that I've got to check out. But I don't know what the quality is on them yet, but I have to check them out and see and get back with you guys. But as far as the difference in the watercolors, man, tube watercolor pens, they work, but they're not near as vibrant and not as long lasting because they fade over time. Because as the water dries out, the pH balance in the card dries out, the color will either intensify because it condenses down with less water and more color remaining, or it will fade off because of the fact that with the water dissipating, the color dissipates as well, and it has to stay hydrated to keep the depth and the darkness to it because of the water saturation. Because see, these colors are wet right now when they go on, and as they dry, they get a little bit lighter. Well, that's because the moisture dries out of them, and a lot of watercolor pens do that, and they get absorbed into the paper, and as the paper, the pH balance dries out over time, they will get crusty and fade and flake off because they dry out and on the surface as a powder, and as the water dries out, they flake off. Think of it like, I don't want to get gross about it, but think about it like peeling skin or like dust on brake pads as they lose the brake fluid. You know, they'll start to squeak over time, and you know, on your vehicle, and that's why, because they dry out, they get brake dust on them, and it's because the surface of the edge is like being out in the desert. It tends to dry out, and it'll start making a powdery substance, you know, as stuff flakes off, and that's exactly what that is. You know, same thing in the watercolor and paper realm, because paper is pulped together. You know, it's pulped wood, it's shredded wood, and it's pulped together into a piece of fabric, and it's mashed. So think of it like a big piece of plywood, which is the same thing as wood being compressed. It'll start to flake off over time, right? And it'll start to peel. So that's pretty much what you're having happen there. The more air hits it, the more it dries out, and the more it will disintegrate and die off. And that's the reason paper turns yellow, because the moisture comes out of it and the wood dies. So that's why, same effect here. The color dries out, the denser or lighter it gets because it fades under light and heat. So hope that answers the question, man. I mean, it's basic common 101 science stuff, but to answer your question, it had to go that route to get as to why it works that way. But as far as Jeremy's question, what effects do you think Disney will have on the comic market? Oh man, I've been talking about this since 2000, and since the first Spider-Man movies came out in 98, 99, and 2000. And man, it's just crazy stuff. I said, well, Disney's in bed with Sony for Spider-Man. They got in bed, you know, they're producing the movies for Marvel. They're coming out, and they predicted back then to give you guys a quick story over it. Disney's always been trying to get Marvel since it got taken over. Sony took it over for a little while. They got the rights to Spider-Man as the sell-off. Marvel broke itself up into the Marvel Fox Network section with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. They sold Sony Spider-Man to save themselves. Then they ended up getting in bankruptcy anyway and getting sold off. Disney picked up the pieces and said, we're going to save you by doing your films on high-grade films for you, okay? That's how they did it. What they did was they went in and they said, we're going to make your movies for you, and you're going to share the profits with us. And then they ended up taking them over. So that's what ended up happening with Disney. They've been doing that since 2000. So you have to consider what's going on. You know, that's why the Spider-Man movies ended up coming out as early as they did with Tobey Maguire, because of the fact that Sony didn't want to lose the license in the takeover, and it revert back to Marvel when they heard Disney was going to take it over. And then they got into bed with Disney with the new movies. So, you know, and now Fox 20th Century is back over with with Disney as well. So, you know, now they're in bed with Amazon with that short-lived Back to Basics Avengers limited series. So they got digital books through Comixology and exclusive deals with Amazon. So that's covered. Then you have the multifaceted Marvel universe application, which is going to host their games, their movies, their cartoons, all of it on the digital platform through a service like Hulu or Netflix, specifically for Disney. So you've got that coming up this year. And then you got to turn around and you got to look at the facets of what's going on with the heavy end, because we haven't even got into the deep, nasty part yet, where they're looking at taking over. I bet you they're going to put in a bid to take over Amazon over time. Watch. They're going to try to get Amazon for the book platform. I mean, I know Amazon's huge, and it's one of the biggest platforms in the world, and I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off. I'm doubtful on that. But I'm telling you, from my business background in digital marketing, I'm telling you hands down, man, they are going to make the effort, because everybody they get in bed with, they do a hostile takeover of eventually. They're going to get Sony, and they're going to go after Amazon if Amazon's not careful. It just depends on the deal Amazon makes with them. And I think Amazon is looking at a big future networking situation where they're going to become a digital distributor of comic books and magazines and go back into that, because Comixology is not working the way they expected it to over the years. It just doesn't hold up. So think about that one, do your research on it and see what you think, you know. Follow the market, you know, because whatever they come out with, go to their news feeds on their web pages and check out what they got coming up. You know, go to the news feeds on Disney and Marvel and check out their news feeds. And you got to look for it a little bit, because they don't put it out there in public eye. They keep it in public eye because they're publicly traded companies, so they have to tell what's going on. But they just don't have to release it to everybody and post a news press release saying, hey, man, we're going to do this. You're expected as a member of their stockholder following, you have to go out there and find that stuff yourself. Because they say if you're invested in them enough and you really want to be in the business, you got to figure out, you know, you're mature enough to figure out what's going on. And your broker should follow what's going on. So think about that, you know? Think about that. That's scary stuff. That is scary, scary stuff. But I've been following that since 2000, and I predicted that, and that's all out there, man. And now they're going to do it all over again. So you watch. They're going to go after Sony, which they've been trying to get Sony forever. And now that they're in bed with them, they'll play ball for a little while, just like they would do with Disney. But then they'll absorb all their stock, and then they're going to make all the profit off of them. And then they're going to do whatever they're going to do with Spider-Man, and they're going to overthrow them and take the property as a peace offering. They're going to, you know, buy up the stock behind the scenes and eat them up just like they always have. And I mean, I know that's a harsh thing to say, but the mouse is vicious, man. The mouse is vicious. And that's always been, and, you know, public domain and digital properties and, you know, intellectual properties, more or less, have been Disney's bread and butter for years, because, you know, they're not a tourist, they're not a movie company, or they're not a publication company, and they're not an animation studio like everybody thinks. They're a tourist attraction company. They're a tourism company. And what they do is they buy up real estate and they build these attractions based off of the merchandise and the movies and the connection they make. And these movies that they make are the biggest. It's called the Disney factor. And they take that old Disney platform and they build it out into what you see now as the Disney universe. Okay? So they are the biggest memory commercial, word of mouth spreading salesman of the universe. Because think about it, where else do you go to buy a ticket to watch a commercial and have an experience with that commercial and that product and come in and own it and then buy merchandise and tell everybody about that product? I mean, you don't do that with Tide, you don't do that with Cheer, you don't do that with Coke, you don't do that with, you know, anybody else. We go to these commercial, you know, these big theaters. We have these commercial experiences with these characters and these productions. And I'm almost said people, but, you know, you're thinking like, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean, Lone Ranger, things like that. Even if you think they suck, they still draw in the crowds. It's the same thing. You know, every time Disney puts something on the screen, it's a big experience commercial for you to enjoy and bond with that character. And what do? The first thing you do is you go out and, wow, I just saw the Avengers, blah, 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 blah. Wow, I just saw the Pirates of the Caribbean, blah, 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 blah. And you spread word of mouth every time. And you paid them to let you advertise their stuff by word of mouth. It's the best business racket in the world. And nobody even thinks twice about it. It's like, well, I don't sell for Disney. Yes, you do. If you've ever seen a Disney movie and you praised it, yes, you do. If you've ever bought their merchandise, you're hooked because you're wearing their stuff. If you ever worn a Marvel t-shirt out in public, I wear them all the time. I own over 400 t-shirts, man, at any given time, and probably more than that, but I just don't wear them all at once. I cycle them out. But the thing is, I've constantly got new t-shirts. I wear them I'm a walking billboard for them. And I mean, that's not just marketing 101. That is a almost 100-year legacy of, them doing that, specifically the Disney Foundation and, Disneyland, Disney World and all that. It's a big franchise of writing, tourism and word of mouth advertising. That they're paying millions of dollars for you to watch their commercials to tell everybody about their upcoming ride and their upcoming merchandise. And then you pay them again to go re-experience it in a live action connection. Think about that. Yes, Starbucks. Hey, Jim, glad you made it on, man. Yeah, Starbucks does the same thing, man. Starbucks does the same exact thing. That is why they spell your name wrong on the cup. So, hey, Mitch. But, yeah, this is where we're at with this, people. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. They're coming at you and saying, okay, this is where we're at. This is what we've got. And, now go promote it. So whenever you go buy, that's what Mattel did in the 80s. That's what, the big game companies and figure companies did in the 80s. That's the reason cartoons were so big. Same thing happened in that platform, and they followed the Disney factor edge. Okay? Same thing. Same exact thing. You bought He-Man toys when you were a kid. You bought She-Ra toys when you were a kid. You bought G.I. Joe. You bought Thundercats. You bought all that stuff. You bought Transformers. That's all Mattel and other toy companies coming in to make massive, massive jolts of selling the toys through the experiences and the bond of you watching that story and that play out. Because by the time you watch it, you're connected with them. You've gone through an experience with them. Get that? That's what that is and how that works. So, that's the reason in marketing they tell you all the time, they're going to come at you in marketing. And I'm going to use a pen here to clean this up real quick. Build your story, build your connection, build your bond. And that's the reason they tell you to do that. So, spooky stuff, man, spooky stuff. But it works. It does work. It's the human experience. And humans are the only species on the planet to do that. Think about that one. So, anyway, with this done, I hope I got all your questions answered and everything going on, and I hope you dig this. This is Beta Ray Bill. Check him out on Marvel's Wiki. Check him out. I don't get anything back from this. I'm telling you, check him out and follow the character and tell Marvel, put out a Beta Ray Bill series and movie. We want some comics. We want some movies. Let's get some going because this dude is awesome. He's way understated, and I hope you enjoy it. I'll be back next time for this one with I don't know yet. I haven't decided. I've got 3 options here sitting right in front of me, and I don't know which one. I'm going to surprise you guys. So I'll talk to you soon with it either way. But as always, you know how we are with this Big Rock. We live here for a limited time on this very short-term party that we have an invitation to called Life. And I want you to be sure and pass it along and leave it better than you found it for the next generation. Talk to you next time.